It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline, brought to you by CG Technology Sportsbook.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Presented by WagerTalk.com.
It's our CG Thursday here on the Las Vegas Sportsline. Tony DiTommaso, he's the Director of Risk for CG Sportsbooks. He'll be joining us in a little bit to talk about the NBA playoffs and a lot of other stuff as well. We'll get you the behind-the-counter info that you like on that group of games. Ralph Michaels is here from WagerTalk. Ari Platinum is our producer. I'm Dave Cokin. It's nice to have you with us. The Masters is on one of the flat screens in our posh studio here at Lotus Broadcasting. And, Ralph, it looks like 3 under is the leaderboard top score right now. So we're off to a very close start. There are a lot of guys who are right there. Nobody's exploded and taken a big early lead.
Yeah, you know, when I left to drive here, I was at the bar with some friends watching it, and there were 31 guys at -1, -2, or -3.
The weather is ideal today at Augusta. That is not expected to be the case over the weekend. So we'll find out how that's going to impact things as far as updated odds are concerned when we talk to Tony D in a little bit, because the Masters is a big betting event. Golf, kind of a backseat sport for most of the year, but not when it comes to the Masters. I mean, the Masters is enormous, absolutely huge. And from what I gather, the handle this year has been through the roof. Well, there's nothing, we can't say anything positive here, except that it's only one game. Boy, the Golden Knights were bad last night. I mean, they were just bad. That's as bad a game. Well, certainly, it's the worst playoff game they've played. I mean, Nate Schmidt, it's the worst game I've seen Nate Schmidt play as a Golden Knight. They were terrible. And that's the good news, is that it's still only one game. And they can bounce back from that and get the home ice advantage in their favor if they can go into San Jose on Saturday and on Friday, I should say, and get the win.
I should have looked it up, but I didn't. Well, you know, what's Fleury's record after allowing 4 or 5 goals in a game? You know, it's got to be stellar. So, like you said, where last year's experience shows them that they can lose a game and bounce back, and I think we have an experienced enough team that I think would be a good wager on Game 2.
Well, they've got to come out with more fire than they did last night. They were just flat, and I have no explanation for how that can be in a playoff game. But they got outplayed in every aspect of the game last night. They got out hit. They obviously got outshot. They were like 2 little windows where they got a goal to make it 3-1, and then they cut it to 4-2 with about 4 minutes to go, and it was still a real long shot. But at least there was a little life at that point. But it was a bad performance. Of the 5 games played last night and the 10 teams that played, I think it's fair to say the Golden Knights looked worse than the other 9 because they did nothing right in their game.
Oh, the other 4 games, all 1-goal games. Road teams win 3 out of 4. The only other home team that held serve were the Islanders against the Penguins in overtime. And
one of the shocking road victories occurred in Tampa Bay, where the heavy favorite to win the Stanley Cup, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're up 3-0.
3-0 after 1.
This is going to be easy.
3-1 after 2.
Yeah, and I think they went on cruise control. And that was a bad idea against the Blue Jackets, who come storming back with 3 third-period goals, including a short-handed goal on that vaunted Tampa power play. And all of a sudden, we have a possible upset in the making in an 8-1 series because Columbus leads 1-0, and now they've got the home ice advantage. Now, I should point out, home ice advantage doesn't mean as much in the NHL as it does in the NBA, and you saw some evidence of that last night. But this was certainly a great win for Columbus. You can argue it's the best win they've ever had.
Against the unanimous best team in hockey.
Yep.
I mean, right, and you ask anyone that follows hockey, the Lightning are the best team, correct? By far? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, maybe not by as far as people think, because in the playoffs, things tend to get closer in the NHL. The parity shows. So it's not like they're that much better than Boston, which is regarded as the second-best team in the East. The other big story last night, the continued sensational play of Jordan Binnington, the rookie goalie for the St. Louis Blues. He has been amazing. And if there were any playoff jitters, they sure didn't show last night. He was phenomenal in the Blues' 2-1 comeback victory at Winnipeg. And I got to tell you something. The Jets are going to have to find a way to not let Bennington get in their heads at this point, because when a guy makes as many great, amazing saves as he did last night, you can get psyched out. It doesn't matter who you are. You can get psyched out. And I wonder about the Jets' mental state heading into Game 2 tomorrow.
Well, I remember watching the Jets playoff games last year, how loud it was there. So the impressive thing for me was Bennington giving up that first period goal, being down 1-0, and then blanking them the rest of the way. On
the diamond, the Rays and Mariners stay hot. The Mariners have just pulled out another win today, and this one, the game's over.
13-1 to the over this year.
And
boy, are they hitting.
And this game was over. It's 6-4 going to the bottom of the top of the ninth. 2 outs, 2 men on. Deep fly ball, and Billy Hamilton, I think he should have had the ball. He was there in time. He didn't really judge it real well, and then ran into the wall and hurt his knee, or did something to his leg in the process. Looked like a knee, and he had to be carted off the field. Then they lose the game in the 10th. Everything going wrong for the Royals, everything going right for the Mariners. I don't think it's too soon to say I'm going to lose my Mariners under bet.
Yeah,
I'm dead.
They're 13-2, and now Casey, I think this was their 10th straight loss, 9th or 10th straight loss.
They won, the first 2?
Is that what it was? Yeah.
And they haven't won since, and their bullpen is just abysmal. But the Mariners are doing everything right now, and so are the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, I don't know if Seattle's success will continue because their pitching really is very questionable. But the Rays, very quietly, could have the best staff in the American League. I mean, this is a really powerful top 3. Snell won the Cy Young. Morton, as long as he stays healthy, is a top-flight pitcher. Tyler Glasnow has taken that step forward this year. This team's for real. They're going to be in this all the way. Yankees and Red Sox better worry about the Rays.
I mean, and it shows. I mean, you look at their run differential already, plus 32. I mean, Seattle's plus 42, but Seattle doesn't count the way they're hitting. So, I mean, it's legitimate when you have, Austin Meadows, the start he has is leading him on offense, and having that defense, you don't need much offense with that pitching staff.
No, but they've got plenty. Yandy Diaz was a really nice pickup from Cleveland. He can hit the baseball. Tommy Pham from right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Tommy Pham is a terrific player. He's going to be a plus guy for them all season long. They're an impressive team, and they're playing with tremendous confidence. So are the Angels right now. Mike Trout out of the lineup last night. Might be out for a few more games. They kept their winning streak going with a good win last night, and this was a good win for the house because the money was all on the road team yesterday. That line went crazy. With Trout being out, it went up like 40 cents. So
just because of the Trout injury?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And the house really cashed in on that one as the Angels pick up their 6th win in a row.
Yeah, and, with them, though, you can say it's because they're playing well at home. 6-1 at home, only 1-5 on the road. But you got to win those home games to be in the chase later. All
right. We will get to our 4 at 4 later in the show. We're going to get Tony D on a little bit early because we've got a lot to talk about with the director of risk at CG. And this is a great time of year for the bettors. It's a frantic time of year for the bookmakers because they've got to make adjustments on the fly in these series. It's difficult. I mean, you got to wait for these games to get over, make a decision on what to do with the next game. Okay. Oh, you don't have the number. I'm going to have to look it up. So, Ralph, you're going to have to talk for a second. Okay. Come on.
No problem. We'll give you an update on the Masters now. You might as well. It's the big news going on. -3, again, a bunch of guys at -3 in the leaderboard. You've got Harding, Scott, Rahm at -3. Connors and Holmes -2.
Connor from last week?
Yeah,
wow.
He had to make a playoff to win last week's championship, and he was the leaderboard.
He had to qualify just to get into last week's tournament.
Yeah, he was the last player in.
He had to beat out 5 other guys in a Monday qualifier to get into last week's tournament, and then he wins the thing.
Yeah.
Talk about improbable.
And I had Charlie Hoffman, and he beat Charlie Hoffman last week. He cost me a big take. Connor's from UNLV as well, right?
Is he a UNLV guy?
I believe so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Someone told me he was a UNLV guy.
Okay.
I'll look it up as we talk.
Oh, all right. Tony DiTommaso is the director of risk at CG, and he's joining us right now. Tony D, what's going on, big guy? How are you?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So we were just talking about some house results, and let me just we mentioned the Angels game last night where, everybody was betting the other side because no Trout. So it's just one baseball game. Is there ever going to be a situation in one baseball game where there's that much of a swing for the house?
Wow. I would say sure.
Okay.
If we get that same situation again where you get that high-profile guy that's, announced out, the Sharps will be on it. And then, of course, in that spot, so will the Square. So will the fans. All
right. Now, we know there was some interesting house results last night in the NHL, most notably with the Golden Knights against the Sharks. Now, and this is where it gets interesting. Now, the straight local books, the ones who really cater strongly to locals, we know they did really well in the game. Yours is more interesting because you get action from everywhere. You're not just a local house. So was it the same situation for you? Did you really need the Sharks last night, or did it matter?
It did matter, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Dave. We didn't need it near as much as anybody else. It was a great result for us. It was the second best game of the day. It was the highest handling game of the day, but it was only the second best result of the day. The first, the game we won the most on was the Lightning.
Oh.
That was actually the best game of the day for us, But both of those games set the tone for a great opening NHL playoff day for us.
How sharp is live wagering in the NHL? Because there's so many comebacks.
It's actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's actually a great sport in running because it's a little slower moving.
Right.
The NBA is actually harder to book in running because, to your point, where you're going with that is once you catch that 12 or 13 point favorite that gets stuck by 8 or 9 early, the line becomes so lopsided. Most of the guys looking for value are betting a favorite.
And this is such a challenge now for you guys because let's face it, it's not. We haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg as far as in-game wagering is concerned. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So the days of being able to put up the line and kind of see what your position is before the game, those days are gone. Now you've got to worry about the position throughout the game and how it also impacts the position going into the game. I mean, this is really sophisticated now on your end.
You're right, and I tell you what, though, from where we're sitting, it's great because, it gives you an added perspective to the game, and it keeps everything exciting. For guys like me that have been doing it a while, it keeps your passion, you're learning, you're always growing, which is great. It's great for the fans, and it's great for our side of the counter as well.
Tony, just a question off the top of my head talking about in-game wagering. In an NFL game, what percentage is based on full game and in-game, and what's the percentage in a hockey game?
Oh, my God. Well,
is it like 10% or 5% in the hockey game?
Yeah, it's 5% in the hockey. It's still not that big here, but again, we need to grow that fan base that are looking for that in-running product. We're not quite there yet, but we're certainly working on it.
Masters,
go ahead.
Masters is rolling along. Good first round. Looks like a really competitive weekend coming up. Who's the best and worst players for the house this weekend?
Well, some of the guys that we're rooting for are Rose, Spieth, and Casey. What would be really good, no one seems to think that Reed could go back-to-back, and that's fairly obvious because he's one of our best guys. Some of the good guys that are actually up there for us are Adam Scott, Day. Matsuyama got some play, which is great, and Dustin Johnson. So the worst-case scenario guys for us just aren't so bad. We've really been fortunate in booking this tournament. Rick Zanko, who does most of the booking for us, did a fantastic job. With the two worst-case scenarios are actually Phil and Tiger, and we still win 5 figures to either one of those guys.
Yeah, it will be interesting, though, because you're going to get more action heading into the weekend with adjusted matchup odds and things like that because Tiger's in contention. That's going to, the Masters is big without him. It's massive with him.
Well, you know what? It would be great. I know some people have some liability to Tiger, but I think it would be great going into Sunday if he's live, right? I mean, that's really the excitement, as you just touched on, Dave. It really is. People love to see him around, and it sparks a ton of interest and a ton of action.
Tony, one more question about the Masters. Again, this was me and the guys talking over a beer. Is it you can't do first day because of ties at the end of the first day? Because I think that would just draw a huge volume. People betting one day of the Masters, picking the winner after Thursday's game. I think there would be so much interest in that where people don't want to wait 4 days.
It is difficult, and it's almost like if you want to book teams to